You save so much time. Plus, I tell my clients, or their managers, look, you score a lot of points when you spend time with the people doing the work as they do the work. And you don't go there to critique, right? You're just going there to learn and to see what can I do to help this person to make their job easier. What can I do as their manager? You're not going there to say you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. You're going there to learn. You score so many points in employee morale is improved just by doing that one thing, man. It's real easy. It's not rocket science.
Are you tired of working more for less profits in your home service business? What if I could show you $100,000 in hidden annual profits in your business in less than 3 minutes? Would you be interested? And not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend guaranteed. Just go to sharpenthespearcoaching.com to see how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespearcoaching.com. Do it now. And welcome back to STS, a Sharpen the Spear podcast. And we have another incredible guest, as we always do. It's becoming a redundancy, but I can't help it. I only get great people. Okay, so I got Errol Allen with us today. And as we always do, Errol, no one knows Errol better than Errol. Give us some backstory, bring us up to speed. Let's get into our conversation. Everybody is waiting to hear from you.
Thanks for having me on, Richard. I'm Errol Allen. I'm native Houstonian, Houston, Texas. I'm an operations consultant. I help my clients to create efficient and effective business processes. I left corporate America, Richard, when I was 53 years old back in 2011 and started the business 2000. Yeah.
So how did that, so I like this. I'm on you because I'm all about operations. Okay. I work with business owners, right? A lot of people. And the operations side is, we'll call it challenging. Okay. And a lot of different, regardless of the size of the business, if you got 2 employees or you got 2,000, operations is a big deal. Okay. Money is won and lost in operations, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
All right. I mean, it's important. Okay. It's not, we're not going to brush over this lightly. Okay. We're going to get into this because I think too many people, I know when I started the business, operation meant get the job done so I get paid. Okay. That was my operations method, whatever it took. Now, as I got better, right, I understand, hey, how can we operate better? I literally dug holes for a living, right? I built water features and stuff like that. We started by hand digging. So get 3-4 guys with shovels and picks and dig a hole and then do the rest of the work. I quickly realized, you know what? I bet you they'd love a little mini excavator. And we could dig this hole in about 30 minutes instead of 6 hours.
Right.
Okay. That was one of the first things. Then I get the right. And I improved my operations from the simplest ways, right, to increase not just productivity, but profit.
Right.
Right. So let's get into, I just want to kind of get your insight. You did it for a long time. You're still doing it. This is your business now. Whether it's some experience, some comparison stories, things like that. Let's just give me some insights on your effectiveness in the operations arena. You know what I mean? Like, give us, I did this, we did that, whatever. I'm throwing some stuff against the wall, see what's going to stick here, Errol. Just wow the crowd. It's your turn.
Richard, there's a few things that I like to do as an operations consultant. And one of them is looking at how you do what you do. What are your processes and what are the steps in the processes? How are you getting things done? And then another thing I like to do is to get people together, cross-functional departments together, because usually when you're looking at processes, flow across departments. Rare are there processes, they just stay in one area. Usually they flow across departments at some point. And then another thing I like to do is spend time with the people that are actually doing the work as they do the work. Because I'm the crazy consultant. I want to see, right? And I want to be able to ask questions. So I think those 3 things are very, very important, whether you're a consultant like me or whether it's your business or whether you are a manager or supervisor, department head or whatever. I think those 3 things are important and just to see how you're doing, what you're doing, and just to intermingle with the people that are doing the work as they do the work.
Yeah, I think that's really important, Errol. I've seen this firsthand, obviously, right? And I work with business and stuff too. It's even back to my military experience. Okay. Your best feedback comes from the guys in the field,
Right.
the guys who are catching bullets. Okay.
Right.
I mean, this is who you need to talk to for real time, like what's going on. And some manufacturing businesses I've worked with too had that same philosophy. They get it, right? I mean, management's great. Okay, don't get me wrong. There's a place for everything, but when you're talking about the actual accomplishment of the task, the production, whatever that is,
Mhm.
who's going to give you the real scoop?
Sure.
I find those guys who are operating the CNC machine, working
That's
this, they're going to tell you what's what.
That's right.
Now, they're going to tell you why they're not hitting their sheets per day or whatever it is.
Right.
But you're going to get the real solution, which I would imagine. I love you do that because it's a way to make yourself look great. Okay, I'm just being honest. Like, if you're listening to them, you can fix this thing in a heartbeat because you got the real story.
That's right.
If you got to go through three layers of people who think they know what's going on, what the problem is. I mean, you need that too. But if you don't get that final, it's good to hear you do that because I find that to be incredibly effective as well.
You save so much time. Plus, I tell my clients, or their managers, look, you score a lot of points when you spend time with the people doing the work as they do the work. And you don't go there to critique, right? You're just going there to learn and to see what can I do to help this person to make their job easier. What can I do as their manager? You're not going there to say you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. You're going there to learn. You score so many points in employee morale is improved just by doing that one thing, man. It's real easy. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, I think also what you probably experience, I would imagine, is because I've done the same thing. When you get there and you're talking to these guys, you create a bond with these guys. You know what I mean? And there's one of the things that we often talk about too in business that when you talk about people on your team or employees or whatever that may be, they want these three things. They want to work for a purpose, they want recognition, quality feedback, and they want quality pay. Well, that recognition and quality feedback is just what you talked about doing. When you're going to them for how do we fix this? What's the problem? What's the hang up? Where we at?
Right.
Like, I think that's incredibly important. I also love that you do the crossovers. Okay. Because you're right. There's almost nothing in the business that's 100% compartmentalized. It can't. I mean, that'd be its own business in a sense. Right. So we have to sales touches production.
That's right.
Sales touches accounts payable.
That's right.
Right. Sales touches everything, and everything touches sales. Everything matters to sales. So there really isn't anyone who's detached. So do you find, so you're basically talking to almost everyone in the company? You kind of make it, hey, we're going to every department, you're going to walk all the way through just because of that interconnection? Is that kind of your philosophy?
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I have this, I call it connectivity, Richard. Well, it's one of my keywords.
I like it.
Connectivity. And I just think it's especially when we're looking at processes. Right. When we select a process to look at, I have certain people that I want in the room when we're ready to flow chart it out. I want the people that do the work in the process. I want the people that are impacted by that process. I want the people that feed that process. That's who I want in the room, right? Because if we don't do it that way, we're going to miss something. The work is very, very tedious. I love it, but I know everybody's not me. So it's very, very tedious. So we want to make sure we have the right people in the room so we don't have to do it over. And then once again, you have the right people in the room. They can communicate all their little tricks that they're doing in completing their tasks within the process. And then people can understand, hey, this is coming from me to you. What is it that you need from me? What should my handoff look like so that when you get it, you can just go ahead and do what you need to do versus I'm not giving you what you need. Now it's coming back to me. Or if you know how to do it yourself, you just do it yourself, but you're not too happy with me, especially if I'm doing that over and over and over and over, making you go backwards before you can go forward. So that's just my philosophy. Make sure you have the right people in the room,
Yeah, that's important because I mean you can't design a flow chart without anyone to give you input, or the wrong people, if you get hung up. I've seen it also, Errol, been in this company recently, and they go and they have the beautiful charts and all the systems and wow, this is amazing, all the right colors and all the cool stuff, and ain't nothing happening. I'm like, and that was the second round of consultants who came in.
Really?
Okay. And this company is like, you're talking, they're in the hundreds of millions. Okay.
Mhm.
Producing, there's like one line going. You got a Walmart line. It's worth about 20 million producing. That's not running. Walmart's there. Sam's Club's there asking why their product isn't being produced. And they keep calling in consultants to write charts. And no one is making things happen. And I'll give you it's a funny story. So a guy's in there and he looks and he asks to see, he goes, well, you got an operations manager. Can I ask why he's smiling? So he goes, well, what are you talking about? He goes, Walmart and someone's just here, wondering where their product is. That's not a small account.
Right.
That's a $20 million line. It's not running. And he's all happy and he's on the internet playing around. He should be, he should not be smiling. He's being fear of his job. Okay, he should be out, getting people to do stuff, and no one's doing anything, right? So my point being, a lot of times people will come in and even if it's like it's beautiful. They created this and everything else, but it's not being implemented.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right team on the ground, management, operations, whatever that is, to implement this thing that you may have just spent 3 weeks, 3 months building, okay, it's all for nothing, right? So talk to me about that. If you had to go in as because I've done this too on the consulting side, where I've had to go and remove some people. Let's just say it that way nicely, right? We got to remove some people. We got the wrong people in the wrong place, right?
Right.
Have you had to deal with that much?
I've had to make recommendations, right? One of my favorite questions is why, right? Why are things not happening? What's preventing it from happening? And if I go through a process of, okay, this is how we're going to do it, then my next question is, okay, when will we start implementing whatever changes that we've made in the process? When? Today, tomorrow? I want to know when, because I want to see it. We're not going to do all of this work just to be doing something. I want to see that it's being implemented. You got to show me. You got to show me. And if it's not being implemented, why? What's preventing it from being implemented? And I go back to, if we have all the right people in the room and they have input on how things are going, what we're planning on doing, then more than likely they're ready to go, right? They're ready to go because we found some things we can do better. It's going to make their job easier. They're ready to go. So when I ask the question, okay, when will this be implemented? People are ready to go. So there's really no excuse.
Right.
But if you have somebody that's reluctant, they just want to do what they want to do, I tell my clients sometimes, you have a decision to make. Can you make that decision that is this the right person that you need in this particular spot? Because if it's a people thing, because sometimes it's not, but if it is, if we determine it's a people thing, then what are you going to do to make sure? Because I'm about the team. Let's do what's best for the team, not what's best for one person. So what are we going to do to make sure we do what's best for the team? And do you have enough courage to do that, right?
That's it. He's been here for 12 years and he's been working the same thing. That's where it takes that's the pushback you get. Right? I've done that too. Like, hey, they've been here for a little. He's the problem. I had this in a company and they had one guy had starting to get a high turnover on new hires. And I'm like, okay, that's unusual. Hey, why is this happening? And you go in and this is right along with your philosophy. Well, go talk to the guys on the floor. Like, why are these guys coming in here? Why are they quitting in a week, 2 weeks? Oh, that's because so-and-so is threatened by anyone new and he makes their life living craziness, right? But he's been here for 9 years, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess who's got to go? If I can't keep people because this guy is 9 years or 90 years, you got to Okay, because I need people to stay.
Right.
We got other positions to fill, and if you have some of that kind of mindset, there's no fixing that. There's no fixing that mindset.
Sometimes you have to have a conversation with that person.
Of course.
It always goes back to, we're going to do what's best for the team, not what's best for an individual. Sir, ma'am, let me ask you something now. Remember, we had the agreement, we're going to do what's best for the team. You remember that? Yeah, okay. Let's talk about some of your behavior. Okay, it's not good for the team. So I want to ask you, are you willing to do what's best for the team? We need to know if you need the rest of the day to think about that, okay. But at the end of the day now, I want to know, are you willing to do what's best for the team? Because you have X amount of years of experience. We would love to retain that experience, right? That's very, very valuable. However, on the other side of that, the behavior that you exhibit is not good for the team. So I need to know if you can change your behavior so that the total package is good for the team. I need you to be able to tell me that, right? And then it's on them.
Right.
Well, I think I can do it. Okay, then your behavior is going to show whether you really mean that. So let's see. And you go from there. And if the negative continues, now you can't play here. You got to go play somewhere else. To me, it's not rocket science, but there is a way to communicate with a person so that it's not so cold. It's just,
Sure.
we want to do what's best for the team, not individuals.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there has to be, when it comes down to that, I mean, people run a business, right? People are make up a business, and you have to have them. And like you're saying, you have to have the conversation because, maybe something changed in this person's life 6 months ago, a year ago. He was great for 8 years, but last night, well, a million things, right? We could sit here and spend an hour talking about reasons that affect people's behavior. And sometimes, like you're saying, just that call out, like, hey, now in the perfect world, the floor manager would see that already and be talking to them like, what's going on here? I see a shift in your thing. And then they can share, and maybe it's just a grief thing and they got to get through it. You can help them and turn this thing around. It could be a good thing, right? We always want to take that approach. I'm not that guy a long time ago, I was that guy. You're out. Just kidding. Okay. I was like, I had like zero tolerance, no empathy, zero tolerance. You do it or you get out. Okay. Like you'll last 25 minutes here and I'll tell you to get lost. Okay. But I don't do that anymore. And I help other companies not do that because I can see that pretty fast, right? It's not effective. It's not going to work for the business. Not going to work for the team. It's not going to work for your customers. It's not going to work for anybody. So, as I like to share, Errol, I spent my first 20 years working at an incredible level of stupid. Okay, because I just thought I knew everything. Okay, and that's the beauty of wisdom. Guys like you and I, and we've been around, we've seen it, we know what works, what doesn't work, and we kind of if we're halfway decent, we've corrected the error of our ways. Right, and we found new solutions. And I think in the area of operations, it's unique in the sense that so many people, like you said, this is something you're into, right? You do this for a business. You did it, as a job coming up, started your business. Not everybody is into that. It's just like systemization. People aren't into systemizations. The owner is not into systemization. They want it, but they don't want to do it because that's not in their wheelhouse, right? So this is why I love having people like you come on the show, because you have to understand, like, you need to know when you need to hire out. Right? We need to bring this person in to do this because economically it's going to be done in a shortened time span.
Right.
Could be 2 weeks, could be 2 months, whatever it is, right? They pinpoint exactly what it is because they have the outside eyes.
Right.
They're nothing's clouding their vision. They don't know anybody. They don't know history. They don't need any of that. They're looking purely utilitarian. Like, what is broken? Let's fix that. I see this, I see this, I see this. So to me, it's an incredible investment from a business owner standpoint, a company standpoint, to do that more often than not, to really try to bring that in, because those fresh eyes are what's going to give you a competitive advantage, regardless of the investment to get it there, right? So, and I'm sure you've seen that, right? And these outcomes, It's amazing what you can do. I think let's talk a little bit about inefficiency in operations leaves a huge amount of money on the table, right? It's leaking out of the bucket.
Yep.
It's just right. I mean, that's got to be a major concern.
Yeah.
Do they get that, or are they just worried that like it's just not going smooth? You know what I mean? Like, do they put both together as owners? Are they tying the money with the operation together?
Some people get it. Sometimes you run across what I call a hybrid, right? A visionary who can be operation minded too, right? They know something's wrong, right? But they can't put their finger on it. They know something's wrong. They'll say, I got customers going out the back door. That's costing me money, right? As soon as we bring on customers, but we got customers leaking out just quick, they're coming in. Well, they know that's costing them money. So from time to time, I run across, people, and even in my questionnaire for prospective clients, right? That's one of my questions is, what will it cost you if you don't do this project? And a lot of them, they can tell you, they know. So a pure visionary, they may not always understand it's costing them money, but if there's an operations person in place, they know, hey, and if you're looking at how many new clients are we getting versus how many clients are we retaining, you're losing that retention revenue, right? So a lot of them do know. I just try to point out, you have to have an understanding of what's happening after sales. Sales, a lot of people know we got to get sales, we got to get sales, we got to get sales. And I'm like, that's great. Sales, keeps bringing people in. But what happens after the product, the service, whatever is sold? What happens after that? How well is your sales department connected to your operations? Because a lot of times sales, they don't understand what needs to happen to onboard a new client if they're not responsible for onboarding a new client. What does that person need to onboard a new client, and are you giving it to them? And that's why I find a lot of the gaps is right there from sales to operations. Things stop because I don't have what I need to onboard this brand new client.
Yeah, I see that. I think people don't. What I've noticed with businesses I work with is they really don't have I call it the internal journey dialed in.
Mm-hmm.
You got the extra, the customer, they call, they do this and they do that, and you take care of no, internal. Like, what happens from the first call inside the business? What is triggered? Who is affected? And where does it go from there and there and there? And that's probably what you're looking at. Like, that needs to be a continuous flow.
Right.
It comes in the front door, goes out the back door.
Right.
But what happens in between?
Right.
That's what we need to perfect. And I think a lot of people, and I've noticed this, is it gets done and it gets out the door, but they're not understanding the actual, even if it's their business, the efficiency of the process. Does everyone on the team understand, and I call it, do they understand how they're the hero in that part of the journey? As that person, like, without you, this doesn't happen. Do you understand that?
Right.
Like, and this is why you have to do it this, and because this is what we're actually putting out the door. We're not putting product A into product B and then delivering product B.
Mm-hmm.
That's not actually what we're doing. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's the journey and everyone working to do this at this kind of level with this amount of volume, et cetera, right? They need a complete understanding of how they fit in that process. Is that something you have to point out to these guys and really clarify?
What I ask my clients to do, Richard, is to have their employees identify their internal customer. Who is my internal customer? When I come from a machinist background, right out of high school, I went to work for a large company here in Houston, a big oil tube manufacturer. And I machined my product, but it was going somewhere else for somebody to do something else. But I had to run in tolerance, right? I had my tolerances that I had to keep, right? And if I'm out of tolerance on the high side, that's a piece of scrap. That's
Yep.
Waste. And I'm brought trouble, right? So that's where, kind of hit me. This is going somewhere else for somebody to do whatever they need to do. So I ask my clients to have their people identify your internal customers and then go have a conversation with them. When you finish your task, where is it going? Where's it going? and go and spend time with that person and just ask them, am I giving you what you need to do what you need to do? Right. So identify what your identify who they are, go have a conversation, identify what they need to make sure you're meeting their tolerances, in machinist talk. Make sure you're within tolerance with them so they can just continue on. Because the better you get at the handoff, the better the flow gets. Right. The
Right.
the less delays you have, the less loop backs you have. Things just continue to flow. So that's one exercise I ask my clients to have their employees do. Identify your internal customer and then go have a conversation so that you give your internal customer a better experience. And you'd be amazed at how that one little exercise can change things, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know you needed that. I didn't know you needed it that way. I didn't know you needed it on such and such a day. I didn't know that. I didn't know. Nobody told me that. And see, that's where training comes in. Is
Hey,
I didn't know that. They didn't tell me that.
yep. That's what I was going to say, Errol. It's now you exposed there's a lack of training here. Okay, that's the real problem.
Yep.
It's not that John doesn't know what that guy needs. He was never taught. Okay, and whose fault is that? Well, that goes back to the owner.
Yep.
You don't have a training, but I was in a pipe manufacturing place, same thing. I'm like watching them like show someone how to operate.
Mm-hmm.
Literally like, yeah, do this. They're tapping the screen. The guy's standing there, never done this before. I mean, like 15 different buttons he pushes, and he just do that, and he walks away. I look at like you. I'm looking like, do you know what happens if this goes down?
Right.
Do you know, like, really, that's the training?
Right.
So I went in HR like, you guys got some big problems here. Like, I know you got guys who have figured it out and they know how to do it, but the new guy, this isn't something everyone knows how to do.
That's
Right? It's like you said, it's that exposing poor training in operations is critical. Okay, because it doesn't matter if you fix John,
Mm-hmm.
because I have a saying in business: everybody leaves. Okay, eventually they're going to leave. John's going to go, or he's not going to be there a day, and the next guy is going to have to do it. How long of a learning curve do you want?
That's right.
How much scrap you want this guy producing?
That's right.
Till he gets the hang of it on his own. Well, if you train him, it may be good from the get-go. That would be the object, right? So yeah, I think so many people miss this because I do a thing, Errol, with here's the job functions, here's a column, here's what you do. Okay, this is the what.
Mm-hmm.
The next column is the how.
That's
This
right.
is how you do it.
That's right.
Okay, but they leave off the third column, the training of the how. Because you can read it, how to do it, doesn't mean you're going to interpret it right.
Right.
It might look like you should do this in real time, and it's really not that.
Right.
Right? But someone wrote it because that's how they see it.
Right.
So if you don't train them in hands-on demo, that's the missing link a lot of times.
That's right.
It's always like fine-tune that training of the how. Now, after they've been trained, they can go back to the how column as a refresher because they've already been trained and maybe they forgot detail C. Go back, look at, oh yeah, that's what I get. And they go back and they do it because they've been trained in it, right? So I love this concept because it's so important that owners, operations managers, anyone else, they understand kind of those three columns.
Right.
If they've got all three together, now you've eliminated the excuses, right? You can have legitimate expectations, right? Like there's an expectation now. You have a scrap maximum you can create.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you go over this level, we're going to have a conversation.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to find out what's going on, right? It's like, our goal is to, have none. Obviously, but here it is and all that stuff. So yeah, I love that. That's an important takeaway.
It's just fun, Richard. I'm a big stickler on training people properly, which means the how has to be documented very, very well. I tell my clients, you should be able to say, hey, Errol, I need you to come and do such and such today. And I should be able to walk in, pick up something, whether it's a physical something or it's an online something, right? I should be able to follow that and do that task. I'll be slower because I don't do it every day, right? But it'll be right,
Yep.
I should be able to.
And done.
Yes.
It'll be right and it'll be done.
Yes.
That's the goal. You're exactly right. And it's, and it's, again, I'll go back to the outside eyes concept. It's almost like you need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, here, just show me the how, and I'll walk through it.
That's it.
I'll poke holes in it. You always need, I call it, you need a blind person to look at this.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, what? And I go, like, you need a stranger. You need someone who's never done it. You got to pressure test this. That's how we do it. If they can get through it, again, you said slower, that's no problem, but done right.
That's right.
Is it, I did one of my clients, we had to, listen, the saw would break down, and you know what people would do?
What they would
Sit down and look at it. They'd sit down and look at it. Like, look at it, like stare at it. Going, oh, it's broken. What do I do now? Okay.
Yeah.
I think you'd agree that might be an operations issue.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm like, so after they sit there for a half hour, I guess they're letting it sink in. It doesn't work. They get up and they go knock on the owner's door and say, hey, the saw is broken. Like, he's got to come and fix it. I'm like, in what world is that okay?
Right.
Okay. I go, okay. So I said, we can fix this. When you come out, what do you do to fix it? He goes, well, I call here and I do this as a troubleshooting line. They might want pictures of this. I go, okay, write all that down, laminate it, and attach it to the saw.
Mm-hmm.
And tell them next time this breaks, here's your process.
Right.
Go through, do not come in my office
Right.
till you've done all of this.
Right.
Because if you do all this, it'll be fixed. That's what the company does. That's what support is for. So I'm like, I go, I know, and I'm not, being snarky about it, but I'm like, dude, we can't, no, people have to solve problems.
That's right.
You have to give them the tool
right.
to get this thing back online and everything else, right? So it's like, yeah, and but I'm kind of astounded, even to this day, Errol, you may be also, that why is it to someone like you and I that's like straight up obvious, like it's 101 stuff. It's the most basic thing you would do, but they don't do it. Right? They don't have that sheet on there. They don't have the walkthrough. They don't have, were they just depending on people? Like they had people who would figure it out and they kind of got through and they got it done. Like, is that what you see?
Yeah, you see, a lot of times you see people have been in place for a long time, right? And they just know how to do things. And if that person goes on vacation or they leave the company, then it becomes a big issue. And I think a lot of times, we're too busy. We're too busy to document how we do things, And I'm like, no, you're never too busy to prepare to make sure things are done properly, right? You're never too busy for that. So I think people know they need to do it. They just don't take the time to do it. They just.
Yeah, I find, so here's the thing. Guess what? It's hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? To systemize creative is hard, but it's hard the first time you do it. Now you have this. Now the only thing that's going to happen in the future, probably for the next 5 or 10 years, is you're going to make little subtle changes in that list because there's an improvement. Maybe it's a different machine, but you're not starting from scratch every time.
Right.
And you can empower your people to make those changes.
That's right.
To continue. It's just a system update.
Right.
That's all it is, right?
Right. And what I recommend my clients do, because most of them have team meetings, right? You have your team meetings. Well, in your team meeting, just ask this one question to the employees: are your processes still working for you? And if they feel free to talk, that's another thing, culture, right? If they feel free to talk, well, they'll bring up things. If we could just do this would make things a little bit better. So you don't have to wait a long period of time to go back and look at how you're doing things. It could be a weekly thing, if you just ask that question. And then you can have that discussion. Okay, yeah, we can do that. What does it mean? What do we have to do that? Who's impacted by that? You can figure all of that out, right? But it's just asking for recommendations, asking for their input. The employees already know. They do the work every day, right?
Right. I was going to say, Errol, you know what they do? I'll tell you what they do. They got the system. They figure out part of the system doesn't work. So they figure out what does work and they just do it. They never update it. They just do it to keep things going.
Right.
But because people never have those meetings, they're never asked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They just fix it because they got to keep things moving.
Yep.
Right. But it's never transferred back onto the sheet, if you will.
Right.
Right. So those meetings you're talking about are critical because, and it's open forum. It's like, hey, we're here to fix stuff.
Right.
So I need to hear.
Right.
There's no bad anything. You
Right.
ask a question, tell her what's going on. We got to fix it. It's interesting because the other day I was on a podcast with a guy and we were talking about hiring, how you hire people and talk to them. And he had a really cool strategy that I really, really liked. And he goes, okay, say you're coming on, Errol, you're going to work here at this machine shop or whatever. Part of the interview process is you're going to go and talk to one of the guys who work on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Just a conversation. There's no preset questions. You just go and ask them whatever questions you want. You go, okay, Errol, what really happens out here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's going on? Tell me about what you do. And he's not sure. Yeah, it's not so bad. I mean, this guy, they're a little quirky, but they do this. You're going to get the real deal, right? And I thought, dude, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Because again, they're not stationed right now. Now this guy who's coming on board goes, okay, maybe I don't want to work here. Or like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Right, it's really good. But these guys are empowered to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get this, they focus on the people. You know what I mean? So it's similar like what you're saying. And I'm like, I have to share that. Okay. So now I'm sharing it with you. Okay. So, but I'm just telling people like, man, they need to do that because I never thought of that. And I have like multiple stages they go through an interview, but I'm like, ooh, have them hang out for 20 minutes with the guy on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just have a conversation, I was like, because that works both ways, because I can get feedback from the employee. What do you think about this guy?
Right.
And the potential employee's going, yeah, I'm not working here.
Yeah.
This guy's, or man, I can't wait to work here. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to do my thing. So I thought that was pretty smart. And I'm just thinking that from an operations standpoint, it's almost like what you do, right? You're going in, you're talking to these guys. You chat them up. What's happening? How's it going? Going to watch what you do, man. Well, tell them why you're doing that, and it's that simple feedback from the guys who have their hands on the actual action,
That's right. I had a client here in Houston. He's a good buddy of mine now. He had, at that time, he had a Sears Garage Door Services franchise, right? So I asked him, I said, hey, man, you ever ride out with your guys, your installers and your technicians, your repair technician? He said, no. I said, can I ride out, with some of the guys? He said, you want to ride with my guys? I'm like, yeah. Well, it was middle of the summer, Richard. It was like July.
Houston.
Yeah, it was hot.
Houston.
You want to ride? I said, yeah, man, I want to, So the first guy I rode with, in 3 red lights, Richard, in 3 red lights, I knew where he was from, how long he had been married, how many kids he had, what their ages were. I knew all of that in 3 red lights. So we get to his first job. I said, what are you doing here? He said, I'm putting up a garage door open. I said, what you need me to do, man? He said, you got to help me? I said, man, I'm not going to ride in your truck in your AC and then not help you. So, put up garage. He didn't really need me to do that much. So the next one, he was putting up a garage door, right? I'm like, what do you need me to do? So I'm learning, but I also would ask him, hey man, if you could get the people in the office to do anything that they're not doing now, what would that be? So he started telling me, and I'm writing it down, I'm writing it down. But what he didn't know was I had already asked the office people, what could the guys in the field do? So when he told me what he needed them to do, I flipped over a couple of pages. I said, hey, man, the people in the office wondering if you could do what, and I just read it to him. He said, man, I didn't know they needed me to do that. I said, can you do it? He said, yeah, man, it's not, I didn't know they needed that, right? So now you learning about what he needs, right? And giving him a chance to hear what the inside people need. He did it right away. He was appreciative. I'm in the truck with him, seeing what he deals with. And shoot, Richard, I learned how to troubleshoot garage door openers, and because like the third guy I rode with, we went to this lady's house and her opener wasn't working properly, right? So I'm just kind of looking around because I've learned from these, the other 2 guys. And I said, hey, man, I think it's, and I started pointing to him, and he looked at me and he said, how do you know that? I said, I learned from your 2 buddies that I rode with. So, you just build rapport with these guys. Plus, it gives you an opportunity to bridge the departments, right?
Right.
So to me, it's just fun. Why wouldn't you want to do that? I'm the crazy consultant, Richard. I don't, you know,
I love it. I love it, Errol. I think, the whole takeaway on that is communication. This is where, and I'm telling you, I don't care what the industry is.
me either.
That's where the ball gets dropped,
Uh-huh.
is communication.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
People are terrible at it.
Yep.
Terrible.
Yeah.
I was terrible at it. I still am kind of terrible, but I'm better. But communication where it's at. They haven't created the communication channels.
Uh-huh.
They don't know how to get the right feedback.
Uh-huh.
They don't know when to ask for it. They don't know what to do with it. Right. That's all part of communication. I deal a lot with construction and trades guys, right? Same thing. Service, home services.
Yeah.
Boy, they're the worst communicators in the world. Okay. Look up any reviews. It's the number one complaint across the board. They don't tell us this. They don't tell me they're done. They don't tell me we're going to show up. They just show up. It's all based on communication,
Yep.
and you just pointed it out too. No, the office isn't communicating with the field.
Yep.
It's the general in the tent, not taking the field guys' analysis.
Yep. Yep.
They're not getting the feedback. And you think it should be just straight up obvious. You'd assume it happens, but it just doesn't.
Well,
But if you can dial it in the company, if you can dial that in,
yeah.
that's the game changer. Because, and the same guy who said about talk to the interview with the guy who actually working on the floor also said this, and I love it. He goes, you don't focus on your customer, you focus on your people. If you focus on your people, how do you not serve the customer well?
That's right. That's right.
Right? So it's like, I love those little kind of nuggets.
Yeah.
Like there's just that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everyone's all customer focused, which you need to be. I get it. But you're ignoring what makes the customer experience great.
That's right. And
Is those
if things
guys.
are well connected internally, Richie, you can't help but good things flow out to the customer, right? Because things are going well internally. It's when there's disconnects internally and that the customer experiences negative, right? You can always look back if a customer has a negative experience. I'm always want to know why, right? Why? What led to that? And a lot of times it's because something didn't happen right internally, right? Why haven't I received my shipment yet, right? Okay, I want to look at what happened when it was ordered, and just follow it along to see where did things go wrong, right? And then how often is this happening? Because if you see the same type of complaint, then that's a pattern. So what's driving that pattern?
Yeah. Why does it arrive damaged? What is that? What does this look like? Why is this way? It's all that. You're exactly right. I mean, it's like when people, that internal, when everything's flowing, it's like it comes out, and I'll use a fluffy term. It's like it's done with love.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
It's like, man, there's these people, my guys who work for me. Again, we're digging holes, building water features. I tell people this all the time. The homeowners would compliment me on how well they work. It was a pleasure to watch them work. Everyone had their thing. Everyone was doing they do all this, and they're just like, it was amazing just to watch them build this and see this thing. Like, that's the compliment you want from an operations standpoint.
Yep.
Right? Because they literally get to sit in their living room, look out the window, sipping lemonade
Yep.
while your guys are sweating and digging holes and doing all this work. But they're like, that was just the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like that was our goal, was to hear people say that and just get this compliment, the finished project. Hey, you guys almost spent more time cleaning up than you did building the whole thing. Like the attention to detail on exiting the property was this big thing. I'm like, we did all that on purpose because we understand what matters, right? And we worked on that internal stuff. So, yeah, that's good stuff. That's such good stuff, man.
Yeah. It's fun, man. It's fun.
The F word. I like the F word. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Okay, it's good. And that's why people like you, and I have a great respect, because people who get into the weeds, and they like it and they create this, it's like guys who are coders, right? And they're like, I won't code anything. Okay. I have a hard time remembering the code for the alarm system. Okay. Let alone creating something that, you know what I mean? But when they're anyone is into what they do, I love a fanatic. I guess that's the best way to say it.
Yeah.
Someone who lives for operation, someone who lives for systemization, stuff like that. I just love those people.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to come in and do what you could never do.
Yeah.
And whatever you're paying them is worth every penny,
You know,
because what it does in the overall.
like, when I was a kid, Richard, my dad said this to me. He said, "Boy, you see things from a whole different angle." You know, he said that could be a good thing, sir. And I always ask a lot of questions, even as a kid, Richard.
Yep.
I always ask
Yep.
a lot of questions. Why? And what happens? And so why do you do it that way? And what I was always asking questions. And my dad said, "Boy, you see things from a totally different angle." So that's just part of who I am. It's just being able. It's just the way my head works. It's crazy. I stopped trying to figure it out. Like, why do I think
Well,
this way? I stopped.
right, but you channeled it. But the key to that though, Errol, is you channeled it. You channeled that in a place you could be a benefit.
Yeah, yeah,
See, because you can have that, when you're 3, you ask questions, why, right? Like a 3-year-old, like asking a bunch of questions because they don't know any other words, pretty much, and they're saying why. But when you turn the gift, the curiosity, the question in and channel it into a functionable, employable, you're an asset. You become an asset. That's what I'm trying to say.
yeah,
You become an asset to whoever you're working for or to yourself by creating the business.
yeah, yeah.
Right. So that too many people don't recognize their gifts. That ability to question. Like your father saw it early. That's wise. He had a wise father. He saw that and like he let you know that's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Instead of saying, stop asking so many questions.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, because then you can think and say, well, keep asking and keep figuring it out.
Right.
Don't just ask the questions, create the solutions.
Right.
Right. Because that's step 2. Questions are good. You need to be a problem solver. Now, next thing, don't bring me another question. Bring me a solution.
Even in going back to what we were talking about earlier, Richard, about an employee that may be exhibiting not so great behavior. I want to know, is that normal for them? Is that their normal pattern, right? Because we all have patterns. Is that their normal pattern? Have they always been like this and y'all just haven't addressed it, right? I want to know that first, right? Then I'm like, okay, you should have addressed it a long time ago. But if you can tell me, you know what, here recently something has changed, then I want to know what's driving that change in behavior. What has happened where this employee has totally shifted from their normal pattern, what has happened. So even in dealing with people, I want to know, who, what, when, where, why, and how. I want to know that.
Yep.
So it's just a part of my DNA, man. You talk about gifts. I tell people most of us have multiple gifts. We all have at least
Absolutely.
we all have at least one. And I tell people lean into your gift, Then it's not you don't feel like you're working. And I definitely don't feel like I'm working. It's just like I get to do what I love, every day, man. So
well, and that, Errol, for you, you're like kind of like me when you're basically like a turnaround expert. You come in and turn this around and fix it, and you take productivity from this to up by 12%, up by 15%, and all of a sudden you're doing that like, wow. And then you go look at the bottom line, that a 12-15% increase makes a serious shift on a bottom line on the company, right? Same thing. I do the same thing when I uncover, lost profits, didn't even know we're missing. We recover that. They're like, oh wow. I go, that's really cool, right? Now you can operate. It's just that's the joy we get when I create profit, freedom, impact in a business, and they get that stuff. That's why we do it.
Yeah.
Right. So for us, it's not work. It's like just, hey, this is just another challenge. Let's do that. I'll turn this around for you. And operations, just kind of put the bow on this whole conversation is, I don't know there's no business that doesn't operate. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I know I'm stating the obvious here, Captain Obvious, but I don't think people always put it in that perspective on the critical aspect of it. Like it's not a focus. It gets done, but it's not a focus. Like, cause it's like tweaking a race car engine, right? You're trying to get another quarter horsepower, a little bit, and just trying to get the fire just right. Like that's operations. It's an ongoing thing. It's not set it and forget it.
That's
right.
Right.
So,
see, operations is
so I
not
think if
fixed.
people have,
Operations is not sexy.
That's right.
Your sales,
Exactly.
sales is sexy. It gets a lot of the
Yep.
attention. Sales is sexy. Operation is
Yep.
not, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, no one wants to see the sausage being made.
Right.
They
Right.
definitely want to eat it,
Right.
but they don't want to watch it being made.
Right.
Okay. So
Right.
that's where we're at, right? You're back there. Let's, we're going to have a great end product, but that's because the operation is dialed in.
That's right.
Right. So yeah, that's really, 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 really cool. So give us some parting words. Okay. And the operations side, kind of what you've been doing, what you're doing. Also, when you're done with that, you're going to give how we can get in touch with you. Guys want to talk to you, maybe have you come in for their operations and get that squared away. Well, let's give that information as well.
Richard, I primarily focus on processes. What do your processes look like? Let's flow them out and look at them and see where there are opportunities to improve them, right? KPIs, that's another sexy word, right? So it's just a number. That's all. It's a number you've decided, that you want to reach in this area of your business, right? But I want to know what processes drive that number. What processes are connected to that number? I want to know that. Since you say that's your goal, let's identify what process. So I like doing that, but I really like making sure that you have the right training tools to train your people. And when you document your processes, you're creating a training tool. You are.
That's it.
If you can think long term, the long term impact of documenting your process, what is connected to documenting your processes and get through it. Once you get on the other side of that, man, the benefits are just wild.
Yeah.
So I really focus on that, man. It's in my mind, processes make the world go round.
Yep. Amen. I love it. I love it. So how do people get in touch with you? How do they follow you, connect with you?
Connect with me on LinkedIn, Errol Allen on LinkedIn. You can go to my website, documentyourprocesses.com.
Nice.
You can send me a message through there or hit me via email, errol@errolallenconsulting.com. Or if you just want to call me, two.
Excellent. Excellent. I love it, Errol. This has been great, man. We've hit some really good stuff on operations. It's been a real pleasure. I think you're my first legit operations guy who focuses on that only. Yeah, I've had systems, we've done something like that, but this is a little more in the super hands-on.
Yeah.
And I like it.
Yeah.
I love the whole conversation, man. Yeah. This has really been great. So I know it's been a lot of value to my listeners. So thanks for giving us the time today. It's been fantastic. And for everybody else, we will see you on the next STS podcast.
And don't forget, revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family. So if you want to see how I can show you at least $100,000 in hidden annual profits in less than 3 minutes, and not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend, guaranteed, just go to sharpenthespiritcoaching.com. See how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespiritcoaching.com. Do it now.